What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Fall Obsession podcast episode. I am Sam. I'm your show host, and thank you guys for tuning in on whatever platform you are listening on. This week, our guest is one of our own Fall Obsession staff members, and he is our producer up in Michigan of the Midwest Mindset series on CarbonTV, Mike Tepe. He joins me back on the show this week to talk about the first deer that he has put on the ground this year. If you guys have been following his Midwest Mindset series on CarbonTV, then you undoubtedly know the work that he has poured into his properties that he has in Michigan and Indiana. And early season, he already started to see some of that hard work pay off with a stud of a buck coming off of that Indiana property. So Mike sits down with us. He tells us the story. He tells us about why he chose to start pursuing this deer, what all the cues were, what the signals were that made him start hunting, and then the journey that he had to actually get it done. And let me tell you, it is one heck of a story. It's not just your normal went out there and shot the deer type story. He had to put some work in to actually get this arrow to fly. So hope you guys enjoy the conversation. But before we get into it, want to hit a few things real quick. First off, our podcast is driven by Ridge Rock Hunt Company. I'm rocking the hat right now on the podcast video, and you guys will see here in a second, Mike's rocking a Ridge Rock shirt as well. So Derek and Lacey at Ridge Rock, what they do is they book hunts with vetted outfitters across the country. They have a large network of outfitters that they have vetted themselves for their hunters, and trust them to give everybody a good experience. So if you're looking for that next hunt, that bucket list hunt, a new adventure, something different, whatever the case might be, give Derek a call. He'll work with you on licensing, timeline, pricing, all the different things. He will get it figured out for you and get you set up with something that'll work for you. So Ridge Rock Hunt Company, go check them out on their website and on Facebook and Instagram. Podcast is also driven by the Outdoor Call radio app. Outdoors Dan from Respect the Game TV, he created an app where you guys can stream hunting shows and podcasts on a loop every single day. You'll catch Fall Obsession podcast playing on there throughout the days on Mondays, and there's tons of other shows throughout the week that you guys can listen to. You can also catch a couple of different live shows that Dan does on Wednesdays and Saturdays every week. And if you follow him on Facebook, he also streams those live shows on those social platforms. So the Outdoor Call radio app, if you haven't downloaded it, go download it. And last but not least, if you guys are interested in having your own hunting organization or brand advertised through this podcast during this sponsor segment, please go to fallobsession.com/podcast. There's a form on there that you guys can fill out that'll just give us your contact info, and our production team can reach out to you guys. We can talk analytics, numbers, what you guys can expect from an opportunity like that. So if you want to promote your brand on a podcast, there are opportunities to do that. I'm going to stop rambling. You guys are listening to another Fall Obsession podcast, and I hope you enjoy this conversation.
Oh, you got her, dude. She's down.
Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome back. I am Sam. You're on here for another Fall Obsession podcast this week, and my guest is one of our guys up in Michigan, Mike Tepe, on here again with us. Welcome back, Mike.
Hey, guys. Thank you for inviting me back.
Happy to do it, man. Mike is also the host of our Midwest Mindset series on CarbonTV, so we've got some new episodes of that dropping every week right now, so I encourage you guys to go check that out if you haven't. We might get into that more later. But the reason that we are on here is I'm trying to do my best to, whenever we have a staff member this year fill a tag, I'm trying to do my best to get them on a podcast, or at least, you know, some of these really memorable hunts for sure. And Mike, you're one of the first guys on our team this year to fill a tag. October 8th was actually a pretty cool day for Fall Obsession. I think we had 4 different people fill tags in 4 different states, I want to say, on October 8th.
Yeah, 4 different states. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was pretty awesome to see. But you, if anybody's been following your journey either on the podcast or through the Midwest Mindset series, they know that you're very invested in your whitetail habitat, your land management, and working on all that stuff that you share through that CarbonTV series. But to see it pay off on a buck of that caliber, I can only imagine how rewarding that had to be, for sure. And a buck you had some history with too.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, anybody that doesn't know me, if you get to know me, whether it's through, the podcasts or the Midwest Mindset, or maybe you're local and we run into each other at a local event, it won't take long for you to realize how literally obsessed I am. My wife says she wishes she was a deer so she could get more attention sometimes. I mean, I get it, but at the same time, I know what I love to do, and I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm passionate about, and it's chasing critters, and most of the time that's whitetail deer. So
Yeah,
you just got to kind of run with what you're passionate with.
absolutely. I completely agree. So take us into this season, because you, me, and our production director Nick, we got a text thread going that we've had going for several months now since the Midwest Mindset series started, and we talk about the behind the scenes nuts and bolts of the series, but then we also just talk hunting from time to time. And you've been texting us and sharing some trail cam pictures with us over the past few months, and talking about some of the deer that you have in your various spots. One of them being this buck. Take us into the season and where your mindset was opening day, and at how your attention gravitated toward this deer in particular.
Well, in order to do that and to give this deer and this hunt justice, we got to back up.
Let's do it.
And so I want to take you back to the last podcast that you and I recorded.
Yeah.
It was in September. I'm trying to remember, what was that, like the second week of September? I want to say.
Yeah, I should have had it on the tip of my tongue. I should have been prepared, but let me back up here and I will tell you which one that was. Let's see. We had you back on here. It was episode 157.
Okay.
August 28th is when it published. So, yeah.
Okay. So right at I knew it was right around the 1st September. So if you haven't yet, go back, listen to that right there, because it's kind of funny how this worked out. At the very end of the episode, Sam asked me, "Hey, opening day, what's that look like for you there in the Midwest? What are we doing? Where are we sitting?" Without giving away too much. And we didn't give away too much because some of the episodes on Midwest Mindset hadn't dropped yet. We've with the first season of Midwest Mindset being new to me and the production manager Nick, and then obviously Sam, it was a little slow rolling out of the gates, waiting on everything to line up with CarbonTV, etc. And so we were a little behind, but we're getting caught up on those episodes. And one of those episodes, I want to say off the top of my head, it's episode 5. It was either 4 or 5, was about the clover planting that I actually harvested this nice buck on. And I remember telling Sam in this podcast, I said, I don't know what opening day looks like to me. I don't think I'll be in a tree. I honestly, I didn't think so, and I wasn't in the tree October 1st. We had gotten back late in September from a mule deer hunt out in Colorado, and a couple of my Taxicams were dead. This being one of them here, where I harvested this deer on that clover plot. So Monday, October 2nd, I was able to get out there, get new batteries in this camera on this clover plot. And when you know it, fast forward to Tuesday morning, October 3rd, at 8:10 a.m., there he is, broadside, 15 yards in front of the stand. And now, mind you, I don't have any pictures of this deer since the end of August. Him and another very exceptional deer came in and spent some time in there this summer. He was in there earlier this summer by himself, and they were definitely my 2 target deer this year. It didn't matter if it was Indiana or Michigan. I thought either one of these guys shows up, we're throwing all the chips in on them. And when you know it, October 3rd, you know, it's 85 degrees out here in northern Indiana, and you look right now and the average high is 65 for this time of year. So 85 degrees out. He's out an hour past daylight in the morning, and I panicked. I hurried up. I hadn't even bought my Indiana license yet. I mean, I had to buy a license, get everything around. I still had stuff set aside behind from Colorado. You know, it was a very quick turnaround. Let's put it that way. You know, we got back just like 3 days before that, and that's a lot of stuff to unpack and get ready. And so, you know, it blows my mind that you and I talked about this in episode 157, and there was a couple key points that I brought to you. I said, I'm not planning on hunting because it could very well be in the 80s. But then I also said, but if we get a cold front, the red moon is going to hit that same time. That same, it's like that. There's a 5 to 7 day peak there, and in the early October. And I said, if we get a cold front with the red moon, I'll for sure be hunting if something shows up. And wouldn't you know it, October 3rd, the red moon's already going. It was 85 degrees though. That's the part that threw me off. I'm like, what is this dude doing?
Yeah.
Does he know? I mean, did he get the memo here? But yeah, I mean, it's just crazy that this is how it worked out, because I told you in that podcast, if I was to be out there early season, I anticipated it would be because of the red moon. It would be because of the cold front, which we then got later on in the week. And then I thought it would be over this clover plot because of how attractive clover is in the early part of the fall. I mean, it's attractive all through the summer and all through the spring. But when it comes to actual hunting time, man, them first 15 days of October, clover can be king here in the Midwest.
Yeah. Until
we get some hard frosts and it kind of loses a little bit of its desirability. But dude, I'm not gonna lie. As soon as this dude showed up, I'm like, wow, here he's read the script. He listened to the podcast, man.
I know, right? Another loyal CarbonTV listener, apparently.
Yeah, well, it didn't turn out too well for him. But,
yeah, he's not watching Midwest Mindset. He just listened to the podcast.
Yeah, he didn't know that the trap had been set, and he took the bait, man, hook, line, and sinker. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, so I guess, like I said, you fast forward to October 3rd, he pops up, and I'm like, okay, it's on. Like, man, I thought we might not be doing much of any hunting for the next, I don't know, 7 to 10 days anyways. I mean, yeah. I knew the cold front was coming. I think it was Thursday night into Fridays when we had that shift. We had a bad storm all day Thursday, went from a highs in the 80s to 65, 70 on Thursday, and then you shift into Friday, and now you're to a high of like 60. You know, so you got what you needed. You got the red moon, you got the cold front. And so I hunted him Wednesday night. I actually saw him Wednesday night. Like you said, we had a text thread between Nick and you and I, and saw him Thursday night. Unfortunately, or Tuesday night, October 3rd, unfortunately had some farmers plowing a hayfield over on the neighbors. And when he did get up, he just walked straight away from them. And that just so happened to be straight away from my area also. And fast forward, you know, like I said, went on Wednesday morning. The very next morning, I thought, hey, he was over the clover the morning before. Let's give it a shot, you know. And he was a no-show. Actually didn't see any deer that morning. Fast forward through Thursday then, pouring down rain and nasty. I'm not a big fan of hunting in the rain, especially not heavy rain. Light, misty rain, yeah. I love light, misty rain, but not a heavy downpour rain where we get over an inch in one day. So Thursday's a wash, right? You're not going to get anything done on Thursday. Well, Friday morning, I go out, and I sit over the clover again, and I seen him, but he was 200, 250 yards away, and, you know, it just wasn't meant to be that morning. Well, I had been talking with a buddy of mine and just throwing, you know, ideas off each other. What can we do? What can we do? You know, is there something I can do to, you know, put the odds in my favor on this deer? Because man, he's slipping up, right? I mean, I had him on camera, broad daylight on Tuesday. I see him Tuesday night. here it is Friday morning, I see him. So I'd already prepared before that, and I had brought in some mock scrapes, and I brought in our dripper. I brought in a mock scrape dripper, and we got some local companies here in Indiana, and was able to acquire some of their products. And I had a mock scrape dripper that I filled up with some, I actually got it right here. So it's some Flawless whitetail deer attractant, and it's the Freak Nasty rutting buck with tarsal. I actually just dumped that whole thing into my scrape dripper, hung it from a pine tree branch right there in my clover plot, pawed the ground real good, and the stage is set. The Tacticam's already over the can already view that. And then on the other side of the plot, we had another local company. I was able to get some Van Meter and Son Ridge Top Buck and Rut spray. Now this, I didn't have a scrape dripper, so I just went over to the other side of the plot, about 30 yards apart. I thought maybe this way I can get a blanket of, mature buck urine in this plot and try and get this guy riled up, make him think that, another mature buck has moved into his home core, where he obviously feels very comfortable because he's on his feet so much. And then, try and get him in here to spend more time on this plot to where I can get him killed. And I sprayed that in the trees over there, and also, made mock scrape on the ground. This was all Friday morning on my way out, after I had seen him, another little buck, and a handful of does that morning. And on my way out, I did not see one single scrape on the entire walkout.
Huh.
I didn't see any fresh rubs. You could tell the rubs were from early September, just getting velvet off. And so that was Friday morning. Didn't end up hunting Friday night. And then Saturday morning, we were on the way to a funeral, and I remember I texted you, and I said, dang it. And he shows up. Wouldn't you know it, he shows up Saturday morning, 9:30 in the morning. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I can't catch a break with this guy. And he went right underneath the one scrape for sure with the scrape dripper. And I didn't actually get any pictures of him working the scrape, but I didn't have it set on video mode also. I wish I had. But he went in there, and he had to have smelt it. And that was Saturday morning. Wasn't able to hunt Saturday night. Had some more bucks come in Saturday night. Had a nice 3-year-old 8-point that we've been watching out there. He come in, and he got fired up about all these scrapes I had in there, because I went from 0 scrapes Friday morning to getting plenty of pictures of him making scrapes, working scrapes throughout the night, Saturday night into Sunday morning. So Sunday morning, the anticipation's pretty high. I'm gonna, I feel pretty good, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna get an opportunity this buck. I get in there Sunday morning, and it didn't materialize like I thought. I thought, man, where's he at now? I didn't see him. I just saw one doe and a fawn. But once it got good in daylight, I had noticed that now my food plot that had 0 scrapes now has 4 scrapes, besides the 2 I put in. So there's technically 6 scrapes on this food plot. And the neat thing was there was 2 brand new scrapes next to each one of my mock scrapes. So I'm like, okay, I got somebody's attention. Obviously, I know that 3-year-old came in and made 2 of them. I don't know if he made the others, but I'm thinking, man, I got somebody's attention. They're fired up.
Yeah.
So I get out of the stand Sunday morning, and I'm heading out. And as I'm heading out, I pass through 4 more scrapes that were not there Friday morning on my way out.
Dang.
And a brand new buck rub, and it was worked over. And I'm like, holy cow. Like, was this all just that 8-pointer, that 3-year-old 8-pointer, or was a buck I'm after in here doing some of this? Was it one of those 2-year or those little 1.5-year-old bucks that was with them? So I end up going around the property on my way out, and I had just moved a camera on Friday morning after my hunt. So I had a 9-cell camera, and I moved it from one trail to another. And this trail I moved it to was going out to the neighbor's soybean field. And I thought, in the past, they will use this trail as they go in or out in the morning and evening. So I grabbed the SD card, I get home, Wouldn't you know it? Friday morning, he came through off the bean field 9:15 in the morning. 9:30, he's on my clover plot. That was Saturday morning. I'm sorry, not Friday, Saturday morning. So then I keep going through the pictures. I get a couple more bucks in there. I'm like, okay, these are probably some of the guys doing all this tearing up the property with scrapes. I get to Sunday morning while I'm out there hunting, and wouldn't you know it, there he is at 9:40 in the morning, coming off of that bean field, and I'm 150 yards away. But the property is so thick, you can't see more. That on the property that I have permission to hunt, I can't see more than 50 yards from the tree stand.
Yeah.
Now on my neighbors, where I don't have permission to hunt, I can see for 200 or 300 yards over there. But I have no shots. I don't have no permission over there. It's just the way it sets up. I can actually see over there. And a couple of times when I seen him in the distance, that's where he was at, was on the neighbors. Well, this is only a 15-acre property that I have permission to hunt. And unfortunately, due to the way that it sets up and it's so thick, I cannot hunt anything except for this one side. I can only hunt the east side. I got to have certain winds, and I cannot go anywhere else in the property. I tried it years ago. All I do is run everything out. It's like 90% bedding, this property, and you just got the one side that you can mess with.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, it makes it harder because I can't even get in there and put cameras around to try and figure out where this guy's moving. I'm just limited to that one side because I know for a fact if I go in there and leave the wrong scent, or if I bump him once or twice, probably once this time of year, he's done. He's gone. And he's slipping up so much in daylight. I just felt like, you kind of had to just play it smart. And I felt like I told you and Nick, I said, he's going to slip up. He's going to slip up. I'm going to catch up to him as long as I play it smart. He doesn't know he's being hunted. And so, you fast forward, I seen these new pictures of him, this new intel, dare I say, about where he's doing the last 2 mornings. So I kind of changed my tactics up Sunday afternoon, and I go in extra early, and I had a set up there on the edge of the bean field on the neighbor's side that's been there for 20-some years, but I haven't touched it in 5 years. So I go in early, trim out branches, hang new ratchet straps, check cables, put new climbing sticks up to it, everything, right? I mean, I take an hour and a half to get this thing ready. And I climb in it at 4:30 in the afternoon. It gets dark around, I think it was like legal shooting time was like 7:45, 7:50. And I climb in there and I'm like, I should sit over the clover. And I'm sitting there and I'm about ready to climb down. And I'm like, what did we just do all this for then? Like, why did I come in here early? What's going on? Like, yeah, I only got pictures of them in the morning coming out of the beans, but I know from previous years of hunting that a lot of the times they'll go hit it in the evening also.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kind of told myself, I'm going to kill him tonight or tomorrow morning out of this stand. He's going to come by here tonight or tomorrow morning, and I'm going to kill him. So I talked myself into staying into the stand because I'm like, no, you need a different perspective. You need to get a different view of this property.
Right.
You need to figure out what this guy's doing. We got to get him killed because it's not going to be too much longer, and he's going to start wandering, and then the game, who knows what's going to happen at that point. Right? So fast forward through the evening sit. About 7 o'clock, my Tacticam reveal pings, and I'm like, please, Lord, don't let that be him on the clover. So I open the phone, and it's not. It's a nice 5-pointer, nice for a 5-pointer anyways. And he's in there eating on the clover, and I'm like, okay, thank God it's not him, because I would just be devastated if that's him down there. After I've sat there 5 sits in a row, and he's not came into the plot.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and I'm still getting pictures of him. He's just mowing this clover down. I get pictures of him going and checking the scrape. And next thing you know, I start getting pictures of him looking around where he came from. And I'm like, don't do it. Don't you dare. Like, you better not come popping out down there, dude. This is not cool. Well, 5-10 minutes goes by, I hadn't gotten a picture. All of a sudden, I get a picture, another picture, and I'm checking it. When you know it, there he is, down there at the other side of the property with that 5-pointer. And I'm not gonna lie, my heart sank, and I'm just like, am I gonna ever figure this out? Like, dude, I'm snake bit on this guy. What is going on?
Right.
And so I'm just sitting there, like, honestly dejected, upset, like feeling defeated. You know, like, God, he outsmarted me again, or am I giving him too much credit, and I'm outsmarting myself? You know, like
Right.
that's what's going through my head. I'm like, God, I told myself I should go sit down there tonight. And so I'm watching him on the camera, and I'm like, well, maybe he'll turn and come this way. You know, maybe he'll come out this way. You know, it's only 150 yards away. It's not that far. Well, I'm watching him for like 5 minutes on the camera, just eating. He's not doing anything but eating. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm getting down, and I'm going after this thing. I'm going to at least cut this distance to 100 or less. And then I got a 50-50 shot. He's going to turn north before dark and come up to this bean field, or he's going to head south and he's going to go to the standing corn. But recent intel says he's been liking the beans to my north.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wasn't confident at that time. The times that I was getting pictures, there was 20 to 30 minutes of legal light left, and I wasn't confident he was going to make it to me in time to get the shot from the stand that I was in. And I know the property well. I have a mowed path that leads down to that clover plot in the 4 to 6 foot tall CRP and grass, because this is an old crop reduction property, so it's all 10 to 30 foot trees. There's 4 to 6 foot tall grass and briars everywhere. It is just, when I say it's thick, it is thick. You can't see 50 yards right now. It doesn't matter where you're at on that property. If you're 20 feet near, if you're on eye level, you can't see. And when you're just looking through the abyss of the thickness. So I start making my way down. I'll also throw in, we just got a bunch of rain the last 2 days before that, so it was super quiet. And I've mowed this trail 4 or 5 times this year, going in and out, planting the clover, maintaining the clover, checking cameras and stuff, because I like to keep the trail as quiet as possible. And anybody that's ever cut like brush, when it gets knee to waist high and then step on it, it always makes a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Where if you keep it mowed, it's more like grass, where you can just walk through it real quiet. So because I knew all these things, I knew I could get close. I didn't know what was about to happen, though. I started going down this trail trying to see him. And as I'm working my way down, I'm checking with my binoculars and and I'm not seeing him. And I'm thinking, well, maybe he's left. Maybe he's gone. So I get up to this one little bend in my mowed path, and I lean out over the top of the briars, and I see tines. And I'm like, okay, that's got to be him. Those are way too tall to be the 5-pointer. Then he lifts his head up, and I'm like, oh, that's when reality kicked in, dude. That's when the heart started racing, and you're just like, holy crap, there he is. And I'm going to guess I was about 80 yards from him at that time. There was no way to range through all the brush. But one of the nice things that I do when I trim lanes, I try not to trim a straight shooting lane, because I don't have any intentions of shooting through there anyways. That's just a walking path. But I try to always put some kind of curvature in any of my trails, so that way a deer can't just stand on them and just see both ways for a real long way.
Right.
I think it not only does it help me, but I think it makes them feel a little safer, as they're not so exposed in the wide open. And it definitely came to my benefit in this scenario, because I was able to watch him without him knowing I was there, because there was so much thick briar patches. And he ended up working his way to me about 10 yards, I would guess, based on how far he moved through the clover plot. And I was ranging spots in the trail, because I'm like, okay, if he turns and just starts coming down this mowed path, I'm going to have to shoot him frontal. And at the way that the path is, he's going to be 30 yards. He's going to pop right around this corner. It's going to be 30 yards. We're going to basically be looking at each other eye to eye. I'm going to be on my knees. I'm like playing through the scenarios. I'm ranging the spots. I've already moved my dial to 30 yards. I'm trying to play through like, okay, you're going to have to draw back super early. You're going to have to be holding it for a while. But it is what it is. Like, that's the only way that I figured that this was going to work. Well, lo and behold, I'm thinking he's coming. So I'm trying to keep an eye on him as I think he's coming. Well, all of a sudden, he's gone.
Yeah.
I can't see him. I'm like, oh man, did I move? Like, what happened? Where's he at? So I lean out further than I had before around this ginormous briar patch. I mean, we're talking like 10 foot wide by 10 foot wide, 6 foot tall, just solid brush. You can't see through it. So I lean out past it, and then I see his butt. He has now turned and faced a tree, and this dude's making a scrape, and there is dirt flying past his butt in the air, 2 to 3 feet in the air. And I mean, it's flying 10 feet past him. I just start seeing dirt flying up. I'm like, holy crap, he's making a scrape right there. So I stand up, look over the corner of the briar patch, and he's literally got his head up inside these branches, just rubbing all around, I'm guessing rubbing his dorsal gland and everything else. Had his eyes closed. I could see he had his eyes closed, and he's just going to town.
Wow.
So I stand up. I'm like, screw it. I have some yardage I can gain on foot while he's screwing around.
Yeah.
So I literally stood up and was walking right down along, because I had another briar patch that did the same thing that was in front of me, but it was like 10 yards closer. And so I get over there and I start sneaking up along it, and he's literally not a care in the world. He's just making a scrape. Dirt's flying everywhere. I'm like, holy crap. This is like, there's no way. Like, how am I so lucky that he happened to be making a scrape right now?
Yeah.
So as I'm sneaking up through there, I catch my jacket, which I try and wear quiet gear, and it is on 2 briar limbs. And I'm not joking. This dude's rubbing his antlers in the trees. He's flipping dirt everywhere, and he stopped and looked at me from probably 50 yards away at that point. And I didn't even realize he was that close, because I think my depth perception was being thrown off by looking through the briars. And so I just literally barely grazed these 2 briars. This dude just whips his head right up, staring right at me, and I just froze behind this big giant briar patch in front of me. And I'm just like, the briar patch was like 3 more yards in front of me that I wanted. I knew that was the furthest I could get. That's the end of the game for me. After that, it was too wide open. And I just froze, just stopped there. I'm like, crap, it's done. He's going to run. Game over. Dang it. You know, all of that flood of emotion running through, you know, as you're like, man, I just blew it, right? And literally, as soon as I'm thinking all that, as soon as that all happens, the 5-pointer comes around the bend in the clover plot, and he forgets all about me and turns and looks right at the 5-pointer. And I'm like, oh my, okay. So I took my 2 or 3 more steps to finish out those approximate 3 yards to get to the briar patch. And the big buck starts quartering away from me and was facing that 5-pointer, but then also feeding in the clover. And he had his head down feeding, and the 5-pointer was just kind of milling around. He wasn't really feeding. So I was able to lean out and range, because at this point I'm like, okay, I think I might actually be in range here.
Yeah.
And I start ranging. I start getting 43, 43, 46, 43 on my rangefinder. I said, screw it. So I just turned the dial to 45 yards, come to full draw behind the briar patch, step out around the briar patch because I can't shoot through it. And when I stepped out through the briar patch, this was I call it my mistake. But it was one of those deals like, this is it. Like, if I want to take a shot now, this is my only chance. And he had already taken a couple steps and gotten further away as it was. And so when I come to full draw, I stepped out from the briars, and that 5-pointer looks right up at me. And he's full alert, just boom, ears forward, just locked in on me. And I'm like, crap. Well, as soon as he did that, my buck was eating in the clover. His head just flies up. But he's not looking at me. He's looking behind the 5-pointer, and he's just going side to side, side to side, like kind of frantically, like, well, what'd you see? What'd you see? You know, kind of deal. So I'm not kidding you. I haven't had bad buck fever before a shot. You know, I don't know. I really don't know. I killed this buck over this shoulder here, this 8-pointer in 2010. And he at the time was by far my biggest buck. He still is one of my biggest bucks. And I didn't even get tore up like this when I shot him.
I think
he was my first.
I think we talked about that on one of your podcasts in the past about how it normally settles in like after or something like that.
Hits, I'm toast, man. Yeah, and that's how I've been. Like I've been able to get it under control because I had so many failures early on in my career due to buck fever and so many missed shots. Oh, but man, I come to full draw, and I'm not lying, Sam. I had the entire county that I was hunting in that site. I was all over that county. I'm like, and then I'm trying to shoot. My head's telling myself to shoot, and I'm like, no, don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot. Mike, calm down, calm down. And I'm like, Jesus, Mike, what are you doing, dude? Is this your first year? And I don't know. I had a shoulder injury preseason, and this year's been my roughest year shooting bow and arrow this year. This is the most struggle I've had. And one thing that I've learned that's calmed me down is when I open both eyes, I don't know what it is. My heart rate calms down, my pen settles in, and I'm able to like regroup. And I'm sitting there just freaking out, man. I'm telling you, I'm going from head to tail on that pen on that buck. And the stupid thing is my pen's 12 inches over his back, and I can't get it to come down. I've lost it. I'm like, holy crap. And I tell myself, open both eyes, calm down. And I open both eyes. I take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath. I open both eyes, and it's like, boom. Pin settles down, bow settles down, and I just settle right in on him. And I had it set right behind his, in front of his back leg, because he was quartered so hard that I had it set about 4 to 6 inches in front of his back leg from the angle. And at that angle, it was going to lodge in the opposite front shoulder or come out right there next to it. I finally settle myself in, get all locked in, and wouldn't you know it, as soon as I shoot, this is where my failure came in. This buck ducks and lunges. And he ducked 6 to 8 inches. I watched him. You could just see his back just sway and go. And as soon as, and I thought I was going to miss him. I thought I was going to go right over his back. And the good Lord blessed me. And it hit him right in the spine back there by the back legs. So he hit the ground. And not what you're looking for as an archer, not what you're looking for as a sportsman. But, I was able to put a follow-up shot up in him, and, literally a matter of 30 seconds from the time the first arrow was released to he was dead.
Wow.
And so, I mean, honestly, like I told you, top 3 most epic hunt of my entire life. When you factor in just getting down out of a tree stand, putting a stalk on the ground, and then him making a scrape right there in front of you, dirt flying everywhere. The stand you've been sitting in is right there, 20 yards away. And for it to all come together like that, and then to be on the ground, 45-yard shot, I'm confident if I hadn't alerted that 5-pointer, if he hadn't seen me, and that buck would have just had his head down, eating the clover like he had been prior to being alerted, I'm confident I would have smoked him.
Yeah.
I would have put a great shot on him. And it's so tough as it is to kill mature bucks that I don't want to downplay any successes because it's so stinking tough. But you do try your best to not let that happen. And it just, when it does, you just gotta get another one of them as quick as you can.
Yeah. Now we've talked about that. It might have been in some of our conversations on here, but I know it's been a subject on the podcast multiple times, just about how, nobody is perfect. Every bow hunter out there, if you've been bow hunting for any reasonable amount of time, you've made bad shots, and if you continue to bow hunt, you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna have more bad shots. It doesn't matter how good you are or claim to be or whatever the case might be. And it's funny, actually. I was just texting with Nick today. We've been texting all day about random stuff, some hunting, some not. And it's like, I asked him with his buck, because he's one of the guys that, and we'll get him on the podcast to tell his story, but he also killed a buck on the same day that you killed yours, one of the four guys. And but I was talking to him about, because he had some stuff going on with shot placement and everything that made his recovery more challenging than it could have been, basically. And so we were texting this morning just about shot placement, and he told me, he said, man, every deer that I kill, he said, I feel like I learned something new about where I need to put that arrow. And I'm like, dude, you're 100% right. I mean, you could have it set up perfectly and, you know, have those perfect pass-throughs, you know, top of the heart, both lungs every single time. If you know, if you want, or if you have the chance to, then good for you. But, you know, obviously for the Western hunting world, where you don't have stuff staged for you, you can't really write the script. You know, you're just in the movie. And then, you know, in your situation, you changed it. You had a plan and you adapted and tried to make a play on this deer, and your whitetail hunt from a stand turned into more of a Western style. Yeah. You know, things got Western, you could say that, but it's definitely, I don't know. Shot placement, I think, is something that people take for granted. And I'll ask you this question too, in regards to your situation, because you talked about one of your quote unquote mistakes, I think, or however you put it, was not thinking about him ducking or lunging or anything like that when you picked your spot. In your mind, with a deer, when should someone consider compensating for a deer dropping or lunging forward, and when should a hunter feel comfortable that where they put that pin is where it needs to go?
In that scenario, you should compensate.
Yeah.
I should have compensated. That's a failure of mine. That's a learning experience. I've been compensating for the shot for a long time because I had so many deer duck me previously, and I still have. But now I typically aim at the bottom third of the vitals. And that's always just because if he doesn't duck, got bottom third, we're still good. If he does duck, get top third of the vitals normally, and then you're still good. You know, I would say anytime a deer is alert, like my buck was, because now he wasn't alert necessarily directly because he knew I was there.
Right.
But he was alert because the 5-pointer did, and because they were so close to each other, he knew something. The 5-pointer knew something was up. And so, you know, hindsight, I actually even thought through that after the shot, like you're saying. I even thought through it, and I thought, why did I not aim bottom third? I always aim bottom third when I think a deer is alerted, especially when I think it's alerted.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That's a good question why I didn't. How much different things may or may not have looked like. You know, we can do the what if game, but yeah, I mean, obviously, I was happy that, you know, hindsight, I'm happy I didn't have to track the deer.
Yeah.
But I wasn't happy with the shot placement. And so you got to go back to the drawing board on that. You got to keep practicing. And then you got to remind yourself when those scenarios come, like, hey, they're on alert. We better aim at the bottom third. And, you know, I'll remind you about a podcast that we did 13 months ago, last November, after I'd harvested my Michigan buck, and that was a 45-yard shot also. Now that buck came in early morning, quiet conditions, no wind, and he's dogging a doe. I'm guessing she was in heat. 45-yard shot. That was as close as it was going to get. And I remember specifically aiming at the bottom third, thinking he's going to hear this with how quiet it is, and he's going to duck. And I aimed bottom third, and he didn't duck. And he ate all of that and then some, and I watched him go down. So, yeah, I don't know why I didn't aim bottom third on this guy, you know, because it's like man, I couldn't tell you the last time that I screwed that up. You know, I wasn't really in the zone. I'll be honest with you. I get zoned in on hunting, and I get ultra focused. And this guy threw me for a loop, man. We just come back from an extremely, extremely challenging and frustrating mule deer hunt out west, where you put in a lot of time and you're not seeing what you're there for.
Yeah.
And hiking, and you're driving to new locations, and you come home with some meat, but you're also you're kind of frustrated. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And I kind of came home from that, and I don't know if I had erased that bad taste in my mouth from that experience and really shifted to Midwest whitetail here and going after, deer here at home. Because like I said, I had no intentions on hunting until this guy showed up. I had no intentions on getting out anytime soon. I thought maybe the wife would get out. She likes to hunt in the warm weather. She don't like to be cold.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I would say, to answer your question, I know I went off a little bit there, but to answer your question, I say anytime a deer is alert, I'd aim at the bottom third. Anytime the scenario plays out like my buck last year, where it's just super calm and quiet and you think he's going to hear you, I'd aim bottom third. But I would never aim below the vitals. I would never anticipate the deer to duck so much that I'm going to aim below the vitals. And I've heard guys say that before, and sometimes they've got it right, and then sometimes they go underneath them. And I've never been that guy. I've always just said, let's aim at the bottom third. Worst case scenario, we'll hit top third.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think that's well put for sure. And you talk too about just being out of the zone. And man, I give you kudos for seeing it through all the way to the end and making it happen, because you're right. You came back from a challenging hunt, and it was curveball after curveball with this deer, starting from the first second your Tacticam rang, on your phone. Just, holy cow, what's he doing? Why is he daylighting right now?
Yeah.
From that moment, it's it sounds like you were scrambling, and again, you made it work and brought it all together. But I would, put myself in those shoes, man. I'd be in your same situation. I'd be just like you, trying to scramble around and figure out what I need to do to kill this deer, because it wouldn't be what I expected either. So
yeah, no, when a mature deer tells you he's ready to be killed, you got to go out there and kill him.
Yeah.
It's not that easy, obviously, because it's not like I went out there the first hit and killed him. But, when he's daylighting on the cameras I guess between the non-cell camera and the Tacticam, I had 4 daylight pictures of him in the 5-day stretch. I had 3 sightings of him in the 5-day stretch. So, and none of the camera picture, well, yeah, the day I killed him. But other than that, so it's like probably 6-7 times at least between cameras and me. He's daylight. It was like never last 10 minutes of daylight or first 10. We're talking, it was always like a half hour to an hour plus on the green on either side of it. And it's like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah, you got to take advantage of that. That doesn't come very often. So.
No, not with mature deer. No, not with mature deer. This deer, I thought he was nice in the camera pictures that I got, that I shared with you guys back when he was in velvet. And as soon as I got a picture of him on Tuesday, I hadn't had a picture of him out of velvet yet. And part of me wonders how much he had been there in that area. But due to my limited area that I could run cameras without bumping deer, maybe he just kind of did a little shift. Yeah. Plus my camera was dead for about a week while we were in Colorado. So who knows? He literally showed up the very next day after I had the camera batteries in. So he might have been doing it for a few days already. And due to the fact the batteries were dead, I didn't know.
Yeah.
But I also knew, that was the first camera I went to when I had a chance to put new batteries in, because I'm like, I need to know what's going on here.
Yeah. For sure. No, we were talking before the podcast. I got a couple spots like that too. That just with us adding setups and everything this year, I just have card pulls on them right now, and we were talking about cell cams and new cell cams and stuff before we start recording. And yeah, I got a couple spots that are first up to get a new cell cam here in a few days because I need them bad. I gotta know what's going on. I know we've talked about that on the podcast too, about how cell cams spoil us because it used to not be that way, but it's a tool in the toolbox, and why not use it? So.
Well, dude, I'll keep it real with you right now, Sam. I don't have a cell camera on that food plot. I don't have a buck at the taxidermy right now.
Yeah. No,
that's all I'm doing.
That 100%. Like you don't know to hunt there, and that's the game that they changed. And in your sense, you can literally change your entire plan just because you start getting pictures of deer daylighting and everything. And I do feel like, and again, I know we've talked about before, there's some folks that might rely on it too heavily. Because you also don't know what else is that camera shows you a specific window. You don't know what else is going on around it. But on the flip side, if the camera is not showing you anything, well, then your camera's either in the wrong spot or there's nothing going on there that's worth you spending your time there. So it's yeah, they're a blessing and a curse in that sense. It can make some guys lazy as far as, going off of their natural instincts or hunting the wind, hunting the weather and stuff. But at the same time, and to your point, you get a target buck that starts doing what you didn't expect him to do. Yeah, you can change your plan. So.
Yeah, because it's, and I'm not sure. We are reiterating a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's for the guys that haven't heard all the previous podcasts. But yeah, cell cameras can make you lazy, but they can also make you a better hunter, and just like cameras in general. And, like we spoke on in episode 157, we're both married men. We're both entrepreneurs. You have other jobs alongside that. And we have little ones at home. We have a wife at home. We're getting pulled in lots and lots of different directions every single day. I feel like there's not enough hours in the day.
Yeah.
So
I hear you.
I'm sure 100%. So it's like, I don't have that luxury like I did. I can't just hunt. So when I hunt, I want to feel like the odds are in my favor, whether that's based on time of year, whether that's based on weather fronts, whether that's based on a moon phase, whether we're going off historical data of maybe a buck that I know made it through the year, and I'm going to go off of what he did last year.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to base it on what my cameras are telling me. So, yeah, without the cell cameras, there's no way I'm out this week. I'm not going out hunting with 85 degrees in October.
No, I'm not either. And that's to that point too, I like every hunter, I got the question before season, how much are you going to hunt this year? And, we got some other stuff going on as far as like my full-time work schedule and everything changing and stuff. And I always take off from work, like the first half basically of October and a couple weeks in November too, just not be, and this is the battle I fight, right? Is doesn't mean I'm going to be out hunting the first half of October and I'm not going to be home. It's just to give me that flexibility of being able to pack up and go if I want to or can or need to. And that's the line that I was trying to walk this year too, as far as, well, I need to hunt when it's right for me to hunt out there. I don't need to just go out there and hunt to hunt. And this year was the first year in many years, I don't know exactly how many, but many years that I like you, I was not hunting opening day. I didn't plan a trip. I didn't go out there because down here it was still going to be 90 degrees. But 6 days into the season, cold front hit and those highs dropped from 80s and 90s down into the low 70s with lows in the 50s. And I'm like, okay, that's when I'm going to go out there because even though I don't have my target bucks daylighting right now, I have other stands where I can kill a doe or try to put some meat in the freezer and stuff. And then that was my strategy going into the season was, okay, once I am out here, I'm not going to hunt these these target buck stands. I'm hunting these stands where I just have young bucks and does coming in, and I can, you know, try to shoot a doe and put some meat in the freezer. And I hunted one new stand this year that I completely learned new stuff about that I didn't even think about until I was in the stand. So that was half of my hunting right there. That was just a learning curve. But yeah, I'm trying to play it smart this year and going out again this upcoming weekend. So hopefully continue learning from my own track record and everything and make it work. So trying to play the weather and the wind.
Yeah, that's what's so great about what we get to do as outdoorsmen, is to just be able to go out there and learn and watch God's creation, and you know, those morning hunts when everything wakes up right before your eyes, or those evening hunts where everything goes to sleep right before your eyes, and it's just like, man, am I lucky.
Yeah, we put in a new stand this year, really close actually to our camp. Like, you can get out of the camper and pretty much just start. You can walk there from camp. You don't have to get in your truck and drive to a well pad or anything. You just walk, which I like for convenience sake. I like being that close. And the reason we put it in there was because last year we kept seeing all these deer just on the road close to camp or from camp. And it was like, there's deer. There's all this unhunted area around camp. Why do we not have something here? So my dad found a clearing with a spot we could put a tree stand in. So we put in a bow setup this off season. And so this last weekend when I went out there, I decided I was going to hunt it one morning, because I looked at the camera and every single morning, every single evening in daylight, there's a ton of does coming into this spot. And I'm like, perfect. Like this almost feels too easy. But I learned the first time that I went there, I hunted it in the morning. And I learned that this stand is going to have to be pretty much an evening only sit. And that's because walking in there, even though I'm walking in an hour before it even starts to get light, and my stand is set up on the south side of this spot, it's an easy for me to slide in there off the trail quietly, get in there quick. I bumped 3 or 4 deer just walking from camp to that stand an hour before light, and I knew as soon as I did, I was like, this isn't going to go the way I think it's going to go this morning. No. And of course I didn't see anything. So, and that right there, I'm sitting there having learned now, well, I need to get in here in the afternoon when everything's bedded down and I don't have to worry as much about bumping stuff coming in here. So learning curve right there. Burned a hunt on it, but I learned that, hey, I got to hunt this spot in the evening. I can't do this in the morning. So
yeah, and at least you didn't burn a rut hut there. You know, with it being all screwed up.
Yeah, I was excited. Like, I love hunting tree stands. I like being elevated. I don't like being in ground blinds, and that sucks because the majority of our setups out there are ground blinds. But my other tree stand setup on the south side where I was last year, it is one of my spots where I have a target buck coming in, but he's not daylighting. And so as badly as I wanted to be there, I'm not going to go in there yet. So that and then the data I was getting from the newsstand, I was like, I'll try the newsstand today. And well, I learned that I can hunt the newsstand. I just can only hunt it in the evening. So yeah,
it's early, you know. This is a marathon, man. I mean, if you get a scenario, you hit the jackpot like I did, and you had a buck that wants to play the game and he wants to do it in legal shooting, like, dude, you got to go all in and you got to hunt as hard as you can, but as smart as you can.
Yeah.
You know, and so I got lucky, because if I hadn't killed him, we got a weather shift right now and our winds are getting ready to change directions for the next few days. Absolutely could not step foot on that property with the new wind that's coming in.
Oh yeah.
I had a window with the wind being the right way, and then that cold front coming in when I killed him, and it's like, when you got an opportunity, you just gotta go.
Yeah, and that's the wind is the thing that I learned my lesson on more than once the hard way, just in the last 2 years of being out there on, you know, with limited setups, and then also just me last year wanting to be in a tree so much, just over hunting certain areas, and it in hindsight, it burned me a little bit, and that's what I'm trying not to do. It's like I got 2 spots right now where I have different target bucks showing up. One of them, the buck's still nocturnal. The other spot where the deer has previously daylighted, there has not been a single day of the season yet where the wind has been right for that stand. It faces the opposite direction than 90% of my other stands. So, so I have to hunt that stand with a south or southwest wind. And I have not had that at all, at least in any realistic sense when I'm going to be out there. So even, again, I have a deer that has daylighted out there, a target buck, and I haven't even tried to hunt him because the wind has been completely the wrong direction so far every time for me. So
Yeah, and that'll pay dividends, man. That'll pay dividends being smart, you know. I hate it when guys, I know I've said this on here before, I'll say it again. I hate it, absolutely hate it when guys say, can't kill them on the couch. Oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
You know how many deer you've let live because you just didn't stay on the couch?
yeah,
And now they are running free on a neighbor's, or maybe the neighbor shot him that had zero business shooting that deer, but you went out there and you should have been on the couch,
yeah,
and you ran him to him that night, or you pushed him off. So now he no longer feels safe on your ground, and 3 days later he shoots him. I mean, God, I hate that saying. Yeah, you're right. You cannot physically shoot them if you're on the couch. You are right.
yeah,
But you can do so much harm going in on a hunt when it's not the right weather, the right time of day, the right time of year, the right wind. I mean, you don't, so many guys just throw a dart at a map and go. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, everything has to be thought out thoroughly.
Yeah.
From your entrance to your exit to your trail to your wind while you're walking in to your wind while you're walking out. Oh, yeah. This isn't just some easy thing that you can go out and kill mature bucks on a yearly basis and just think that all you got to do is just get to the right spot.
yeah.
You might be in the right spot, but if everything else is wrong, you ain't killing.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Well, man, I'm glad that it worked out in your favor. I'm glad you made the move. Glad that you got it done on that big deer. He's a stud.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't think that's a move I'll be making very often with a bow in my hand. So that might be a one-off right there, but hey, we're batting 100.
Yeah. No, it was a good call in the moment for sure. Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your story. I hope that we're back on here again before this. Well, I know we will be because we have, as we talked about previously, we got a Colorado hunt coming up in a little over a month now. So there'll be plenty of content and podcasts coming with that. But looking forward to sharing camp with you here in a few weeks, and it's going to be a fun time. But
yeah, definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah,
you and Tim, me, that should be a good time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It'll be fun. Chasing some muleys and some whitetails. It'd be a good time. Well, for our listeners, thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to wrap up the podcast for this week's episode. You guys know the drill. All the social medias, go and like and follow Fall Obsession. Make sure that your notifications are turned on. Subscribe to the YouTube. And go check out all of our various series on CarbonTV. We obviously have the podcast on there. And then Mike has his Midwest Mindset series on there, a video series that's streaming from Carbon. I have our Texas Dirt series that's streaming on there as well. So we both have habitat related management series on there, but they're in completely different worlds and completely different mentalities. So if you just want to enjoy some good hunting shows, then go check them out. If you're interested in one more than the other, definitely go look at it. So be sure to hit up CarbonTV and watch the series on there. But thank you guys for listening to another podcast. We're back again next week, and I'll catch you then.